called? Is it squeak? A whistle?
I don't know. I mean, isn't it made by like them rubbing their wings together or something?
Something like that.
Okay. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but anyways, yeah, the crickets. I don't hear it that often. I got to be honest.
Okay.
It's usually the only reason I notice is because people will comment about it on the comment board. But man, it's been a pretty nice weekend for myself. Been doing a lot of cooking. How about you? What have you been up to?
I went shooting today.
Nice.
And that was always fun. I've got the speed loader for one of my guns that shoots little 22s.
Yeah.
And you can literally load, I have 17 bullet capacities on for 2 of them. And I can load both of them in about 20 seconds.
Nice.
So I was there for about 45 minutes, and I think I shot around 700 plus rounds, like 500.
Dang.
522, and then a couple hundred 9mm.
Heck yeah.
So
it's interesting because I think Alana and I have done this a couple times where we make a date night out of going to the shooting range. It's been a while since we've done this, but there's something very invigorating about that, about doing that.
Yeah, no, I enjoy it. I think it's a skill that everyone should learn and have and be comfortable with guns. And the goal is never to have to use them, but it's also the other goal is to be prepared to if you need to.
Yeah.
And
I think you said that said really well. And like, if you own them, it's something you should probably do,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And when probably actually it is just about 20 years ago, I was painting, and there was a guy that I was painting for, and he was a surfboard shaper, and I wanted to get into surfing.
Okay.
And what he told me back then was he was going to make me a board, and as part of trade for the job. And he said, you need a longboard. I know you want a short board, but you need a longboard because the more waves you catch, the better surfer you'll be. And then when it came to later on, a couple years later, getting into guns and shooting, one of the people that was kind of helping me out, they said, get a 22. It's easy to shoot. It's cheap to shoot. It's not scary. You can go through thousands of rounds for a fraction of the cost, and you're just going to become a better shot and become more comfortable with it. So that's kind of how I treat so much stuff, where like a lot of people look at a 22 and they're just like, oh, whatever. That's a baby's gun. And I'm like, yeah, but I got 500 shots off today, and a fraction of the time it cost me $75 in ammunition. And I treat that same logic with weightlifting. You've seen me warm up forever with 50 kilos. And I'm not taxing myself. I'm just getting everything zoned in and tightened up and getting everything functioning right. And I feel like that's just a great way that you get people who've been doing whatever they've been doing for that medium range. So they're not a beginner anymore, but they're definitely not an expert. And then those are the ones who love to talk and love to make fun of you and say, oh, that's all you're doing? You're still on 50 kilos?
Listen, go ahead. I'll wait.
No, I was just saying that, like, I get everything dialed in at 50 kilos. And then, I mean, yesterday I made a larger than normal jump from anyone in weightlifting, probably. And I said, I'm ready for this lift right now. And I said, I'm just going to try it once. If I miss it, it's not there. If I make it, I'm done. And I made it, and it was not hard.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There's something to be said about tuning everything up before you're ready to actually go.
Yes. And I will admit that it's something that I'm not good at when I'm by myself. And I'm trying to put some thoughtful effort into that. But the story I wanted to tell was the first time I came down to see you and to compete at the Oceanside meet. Like the day before, you're like, all right, let's go out and lift. And we were in your garage, and you put yellows on, and you're like, okay, I hit it for a double. And we did that for a solid hour. And then I'm like, we can do any clean jerks? She's like, no, nah. I mean, you could throw 70 on there if you want to push a couple out. And I was like, okay. Fast forward to the next day. To date, it was the best meet I've ever had total. So, hey, he's not lying. It works. It fine tunes everything. It allows you to feel things. It allows you to move. And it's a very, very manageable weight for most people. And yeah, that's such a good thing. I love it.
Yeah, one of the little things that I did yesterday is I was not pulling the weight like it was 50. I was doing tempos. I was pulling it slow. I was treating it like it was heavier than it was, so that when I actually put on like 120 kilos, it moved the same way. I moved it the way I wanted to move it, and it didn't. My butt didn't shoot up. Like nothing was out of position.
Yeah,
and you can treat something that's lighter like it's heavy. Like I see so many people just over pull the crap out of everything, and they're like, it's light. I'm like, well, don't give it your 100% when it's light. Like, move like it's 100%, but don't give it 100%. Like, if you're playing catch with a little kid, you're not going to throw the ball as hard as you can at him. Just
yeah, a good analogy, right? Yeah, you're right. I learned this pretty early on that I can rip the bar off the ground really easy, and I think a lot of people can. But and so one of the things I have done from an early standpoint in this sport is from bar to 70%. I'm like almost trying to get a 3 count to the knee. Like nice. that first one is like every weight, no matter what, I'm trying to pull nice and slow, keeping everything really tight and tension and keeping the tension in there. And then I can speed up as I gradually get past the knee and go. Yeah, I think it helps a lot with that heavier weights. Like you said, it makes it so it's like, it's like a mind trick. That's what it is. It's just a mind trick. You're tricking your mind to think that everything you pull is 120, right? Yeah. Like if that's what you're working up to. I love that move. And I will say that I did have, at one point, I did have a coach look at me because I was doing it in a meet. And I had a coach at one point be like, look at me and be like, this isn't tempos. Why are you doing tempos? And I was like, no, this is just what I do. This is my warm up. No, you're not going to do it that way. Okay. Weird. I bombed out at that.
Isn't it funny when coaches who are online who don't see how you warm up every day tell you how you need to warm up on the most important day of your life when it's a competition?
Yeah, no, it's kind of funny, isn't it?
Yeah, it's because you're doing it different than the way they like to do it.
Yeah. Well, and that can be dismantled by just having good communication with your athlete and being like, hey, let's talk about your warm-ups. Okay, I'll tell you how I do it. And we this is what we do. But if there's no communication and, you're primarily an online coach, like that's online coaches, if you're out there and if you're listening, I'm not dogging on you, but what I am saying is communicate with your athletes because that's like the number one thing to be successful, I think. I don't know. I could be wrong, but hey, probably not.
The other part that I would give advice to anyone who is on an online team is if you're showing up to some bigger competition with a bunch of other lifters that are going on, get in the back room and see how the coach coaches.
That's a good one.
See how they do things, see if they're flexible, if they're not flexible. It's like, see if they're going to work with the athlete or if the athlete has to do it their way.
Yeah.
I've always had very good communication with with my coaches, or with my teammates. And there was one meet in particular where I said to two of my friends who were there in the back room with me, they said, what do you want? And I said, keep the coach away from me. Keep him at the table. Yeah. He doesn't need to know anything what's going on here. Just tell him everything's going good and I don't want him to talk to me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they did not do that.
That's funny. Yeah, well, and I guess this is going into our topic, and we've kind of already jumped into it, but just being a competitive athlete as somebody, and I think I'm speaking more from the from maybe an older generation, I guess, but somebody who has a career, who has a family, who has outside hobbies going on outside of weightlifting, and just like the balance and the understanding, and a lot of what us do, I guess that's the right way to say that, is we we have these online coaches. Even to the point of, I have a coach right now that lives 30 minutes away from me, but we primarily communicate online, right? And it's just the way of the world. It's the way of weightlifting, at least in my area, because we have maybe only a handful of gyms that are have coaches there, and it's 24/7. You got an in-person coach there at all times. I just don't think I don't think it happens around here. Maybe I think you probably, obviously you have a lot more down there, but in the Pacific Northwest, it's weird. There's like maybe 4 or 5 actual weightlifting gyms. So it's not like it's not out of reach, but
sure. But also, like, your coach, well, even if you are in person all the time, that doesn't mean your coach is there and your coach is watching you. Like,
correct.
the way that our gym works, I'm not on a personalized special. I mean, I am, but not given to me by anyone at the gym.
Mhm.
I'm on a modified by yours truly program.
Nice.
But I know that the people who are on individual programs, they're not always lifting at the time when the main coach is there, who's coaching and programming for them, and they're sending them videos all the time. So I think that even though you are in person, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're still remote.
Yeah. And I mean, even with what I'm doing right now, he gives one in-person day, and it's a Saturday, and it's usually like let's just work up to a heavy day. And although I haven't made it to one of those yet, partially my fault, but also he's on vacation right now too, so it's cool. But like, in the terms of being competing in a sport, a competitive athlete of some sort, I had an old neighbor that she posted a picture today. She's a realtor, and she had a picture of like some ribbon that she had up, and it was like, "Hey, I took I think it was 10th place today in the marathon, and I'm at an open house." Like, so. It's like she got up in the morning, she ran a marathon, and then she's doing an open house. That ultimately will have an effect on your training and how you compete. And so, being a man that owns his own business primarily, right? I think that you have a bit more responsibility probably than the average athlete. How do you do it? How do you balance it?
I definitely do have a lot more responsibility and a lot more stress in my life, but one of the definite perks is I'm at a point in my life where I can't set my schedule to the point where it's like, oh, if I just want to leave at 11 o'clock, I can, but I can plan things out and get things done in a way that I can be at the gym at like 2 or 3, or I can get, so I've seen a lot of the people at the gym, they have the typical 9-to-5 jobs where they cannot get out anytime early.
Right.
I know, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I know the amount of stress that I'm under. And then I see how willy-nilly these people are when they check out of work, because they're literally checked out of work. And my job is 24/7 if someone wants to call me. So, but yeah, I think it's just a thing that you just have to have those expectations, and there's going to be certain days where you feel good, and there's going to be a lot more of those days where you don't feel good, and you don't take the good days personally like I'm so great, and you don't take the bad days personally like I'm a mess right now and it's never going to come back, and you just kind of flow with it all. So
yeah, and I like that. That's a really good point, because I'm kind of in the same boat as you, and when it comes to schedule wise, like a little bit. There are days that I like to call it flexing. Like, there are days that I'm working 12, 13-hour days. And then there are days that I can be off by 1 o'clock and, get in an early session. it's interesting because I still keep my schedule, my lifting schedule the same. So even if I'm off at 1 o'clock, and this is just the luxury of having a home gym is I get home, I relax maybe I'll take like a hot bath or something, or I'll stretch out a little bit more, or I'll, get the gun out and work something that's hurting. So I take the extra time to do a little bit more pre stuff. And then I still hit the gym by, 4:30. I also take the time to, if I get off early like that, I'm like, okay, I'm going to spend some time with my wife, or, maybe I'll pick up my kids from school because I don't usually do that. And it's that kind of balance that still allows me to consistently work through a consistent training program. Now, that doesn't mean that I don't have stress. I have lots of stress. Stress happens everywhere in life. Obviously,
Why are you so stressed? Why are you so stressed out? It was 1 inch of snow.
Yeah. Oh, well, my wife tells me the 1 inch is a good amount of size. So,
Right.
I have to work that joke in. But yeah, it snowed here. We had 1 inch, and it was Armageddon, dude.
When you told me that you were talking to people and telling them that this is not that you are not immoral for asking them to come to work because there's 1 inch of snow on the ground, I was like, you gotta be freaking kidding me.
Oh, dude. It was, do you not care about my safety? All you guys care about is making money. And I'm like, this is your job, bro. Come on.
Yeah.
And at that point, when they drop the safety bomb, I just say, okay, guess you're not, move on to the next person. Just get the store open.
Yeah.
So, and that's all you can do. But that causes stress. And then you walk down into your gym and it's like, I always want to be like, magically open the door and all that goes away, but it doesn't. Mm-hmm. So I use stuff like caffeine. Mm-hmm. I use stuff like hot baths. I try to take extra long warm-ups. But at the end of the day, I think you got to have acceptance that like stress is it's going to mess up your training. That's all there is to it. And you just got to work through it. And I tell myself this all the time, doesn't always happen, but just don't take it so seriously.
Yeah.
I think I sent you guys a poll the other day where I said, it's a hobby 5 times. Yeah. At least. So.
No, I think something I said a little bit earlier that kind of like popped back into my head is the good days aren't as good as you think and the bad days aren't as bad as you think.
Exactly.
And as long as you're getting in as often as possible and you're consistent with it, it's all going to even out. Mm-hmm. So like
consistency.
I remember like someone talking to me about stretching and they're like, it's better to stretch 10 1 minutes a day than one 10-minute session a day.
Yeah.
And they're like, because you might miss 2 or 3, but you still got 7. But if you're too tired to get that 10 minutes in, you're not going to do it.
I like that, dude. That's like in the accumulative effect, because it's like I heard somebody say to me the other day, like they're asking me like, hey man, do you work out like 5 times a day? And I was like, no. I wouldn't be walking very much.
I did 5 reps a day.
Yeah. He goes, yeah, every time I have like 10 minutes of spare time, I just go do like 25 air squats. And I was like, dude, that's great.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, but I'm not going to get all ripped. I was like, you'll probably be better off than me in about a year. Yeah. I bet you. You just keep on doing it. It's going to build. It's going to build. It's going to build. Like, I don't know. I tell my wife this a lot where I'm like, hey, you got 5 minutes, you work from home, do some sit-ups or do some air squats or go do some yoga for 20 minutes. I think it's harder for the brain to really comprehend it. And then when you just do it, it's like, oh my gosh, that was easy.
Yeah.
I don't know. But as far as like, I think that where the stress affects me the most is where I got stress walking in, and then I'm already working on like really dialing in on a position or a technique. Like right now it's foot pressure. And so I'm working on keeping even foot pressure through my pull, because you see my foot will rock around a little bit, and that gets me off balance. And so one thing that I've noticed that happens is that if I'm walking in with stress and then I'm working on that and it ain't working, holy crap, that can just throw a session completely, right? Don't always come out successful on that session. But something I did yesterday was I worked up to, I don't know, 85%. I was struggling and I just wasn't moving fast. I wasn't super stressed, but I had a long week. And I just I missed it 5 times, made it the 6th time. And I said, you know what? We're just going to do pulls and work on foot pressure through the pulls. And I walked away from that session feeling really not defeated.
Cool.
Maybe a little annoyed, but not defeated.
So I haven't thankfully had to do this in probably 5 years.
Yeah.
But there has been certain days where it's like nothing's going right.
Yeah.
And again, this wasn't in the garage. So it's a little bit different when you're in the garage. But if you're like actually at a gym, and I felt like I needed a restart. So I stopped, I cleaned everything up. I went and I don't remember if we had energy drinks or Gatorade or what it was, but I went and got something. I took a little break. I took my shoes off. I came back in, I put different shoes on, and I started over.
I like that.
And like I had the time and I had like the availability, and I know a lot of people don't have those perks, but I was able to do it. And it wasn't like I was 2 hours in and I was going to go redo the 2 hours. I was 20 minutes in and I was like, I gotta start over. And there was something about changing the shoes that was like, now it's a different day. Now it's a different session.
I like that.
So that would be one little tip. I don't know how it would work in the garage all alone and
well,
go inside, go poop, come back.
Yeah, right. Well, and that's one thing. The second I walk inside, it's like, hey, Dad, can we do this? Hey, Dad, look at and that's totally fine. I love it when my kids are engaged. But sometimes I'm like, I gotta like really balance that out of like, and they know by now, but it's like, hey, buddy, let's talk after training. Yeah. Okay. We'll talk after training. I mean, we've talked about this a ton, but like training partners, I've noticed every time Damon's come over in the past month and 2 months that my sessions have been fire. And so, and that is something that being a garage solo lifter that I will never get past. It's not like I'm working towards like being just so great by myself. There is just something you cannot replicate in the sport, and that's a great training partner. Somebody just to sit there and stare at you and be like, well, why'd you do that? or tell you to let's go right when you touch the bar. Music doesn't even do that. Like there is just something about having the presence of another person. And, even if he's not lifting, sometimes he'll come over here and he won't lift. He'll just sit there and hang out, which is cool. But the training partner, the breaking away, putting on new shoes, I really like that. I'll use that. So I've been thinking about this. I'll usually use that technique if like I've had a string of bad sessions and then I change my shoes and all of a sudden I'm a new lifter, brand new. Yeah, I don't know if you knew that.
Freaking shoes.
Yeah. I love it because like, when it happened, because I'll jump on the polo and be like, dude, I changed the shoes. It was the shoes. and it wasn't the shoes, unfortunately, at least in my case.
I think another thing that has definitely helped me in lifting and being like the age and the place that I am in life is, like I said, where I have that nice luxury of kind of being able to time my time at the gym and pick the schedule that I'm going to have.
Yeah.
One of the things that is very important to like me, and then because it's important to me, it makes my life so much easier, is I do my best to be like, so Mondays I coach, so I'm not back to like 6:45, 7 o'clock. So I'm back late. But most of the time on Wednesdays, I'm back home before anyone else gets home from school and I'm done.
Yeah.
And that way, like, I can get dinner going, I can get all the other stuff, and the family's not like, oh, he's out playing his foosball again and doing his like not being a dad, just being a young
Yeah.
single person. And
Yeah.
and then same even Fridays, I will generally be I check to see what everyone's schedule is and what they're doing. And like if my kids are going out or something, it's like, all right, I don't need to be home that early. But even Fridays, I try to be back by like 4:30.
Yeah.
So that's after they're already off school, because they get off at noon on Saturdays. So they're like,
Nice.
there's no way I'm going to be back by then.
Yeah.
And then Saturdays, my wife goes to yoga. I go into the gym. I try to be back by lunchtime, and I'm trying not to just be gone all the time doing this hobby. And I think that if you can be at home as much as possible so that people at home aren't pissed off that you're out having fun, your lifting is going to go so much better. Like, yeah, you're going to have to cut some sessions short, and you're going to have to not be able to get everything done, but who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Because you can always go out the next day, and even if it's like your off day, you can go out and finish those squats you were supposed to do the day before. It's an accumulative effect. You bring up something that's really that I think that we've talked about, but I don't think we've talked about enough, which is the aspect of the people around us. And I can say from my situation, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that probably have this, but I can only speak for me, which is, even though I have a home gym, and I did create that so I could be home more often, and that was the primary reason. But like, I do get a lot of support from my kids and my wife, and like they have a funny little saying that's like, well, dad's lifting today, so don't bother him, like, and that's partially because I've had to speak up. Let's say it lightly. I've had to speak up a couple times and say,
Sure.
Give me the space. Just give me that 2 hours. Like, it probably won't take me 2 hours. Maybe sometimes it will. But that's what I commit to. Give me that space. And they are very, very supportive. And you had said something to me over the podcast, or over the polo, that I never thanked you for, which was, I was talking about the whole like trip to Idaho and all that stuff. And I was like, man, I think I said it was like $1,700, and that's how much it's going to be. And, paying for a competition, that's a lot for a competition. And then you got on and you said to me, dude, that's $1,700 of like with your family and with memories and like having fun. And it's not just for a competition. And thank you for that. Because you're right. They should be able to enjoy it as well, because they have to put up with my grumpy ass, 4 or 5 days a week. Right. And so that it makes sense. But the support we get from the people around us, our peers, our family, if you don't have family, it's your friends, it's people at the gym. You have probably been a huge support system for people at Strength Inc. Like, that's a huge thing. And I think we can't let that just go lightly, because, I don't know. I don't know how well I would do if I constantly had somebody saying that.
There's a commenter.
Great.
No, but some like just the stuff that kind of is popping into my head is, I could have never gone as far in this sport and done what I've done if I knew that my family wasn't happy with me being gone, and if they were like resentful.
Exactly.
And sure, I've cut out on a lot of my program to be home. Mm-hmm. But I know that having that support from the family is going to do 10,000 times what if I would have more than what accomplishing my program would have done.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about like, if you're going to a competition that your whole family doesn't want you to go to, but you're like, I'm going to go. And I did every single rep that I had to do, and I did all this, and then you go there and they're just like pissed.
They're pissed.
Like, it doesn't matter how good you like. It doesn't matter how much you prepped for that competition. If you're gonna stay married, you're not gonna do that good. Like if someone's already about to get a divorce, it's like, all right, then I don't have much to say about that. But like,
right.
Having someone supporting you and excited that you're going, like that's gonna do so much more for you than a couple extra squats.
Yeah, man, that's spot on. You know, I think about that, and I think about like how when I started coming down to San Diego every summer, and I think one time I was like, dude, you want us to get an Airbnb? Because I can't imagine your wife wants a bunch of weightlifters just crashing your house all the time. And you're like, that'd be cool. But, at the same time, like she was so accepting of like us walking in there, just like sleeping in your living room. And, it only took a couple times to me to be like, okay, let's stay offsite just the way, give her space. Because you gotta have that balance of just working, through this sport. Yes, it is a hobby, but we do put a lot of time and effort into it, and there's people around us that are integral to us being able to do that, and I think that's worth being said. So
yeah, I just can't imagine what kind of a-holes we would be if we weren't doing this.
I think about it all the time, and I'm like, what the hell would I be doing for that amount of time? Like, I'd be a deviant of some sort. I don't even know. Okay, so Cornell, we haven't talked much food lately. We're going to transition a little bit.
We haven't talked anything in 3 weeks, so.
Yeah, I know. That's on me. That's on me.
Super Bowl.
Football season is over, so we will not have to deal with that anymore. So, you cooking anything lately? Anything? I know you just got done with your kitchen, so I don't know if that's a good question for you or not. Have you eaten anything good lately?
No, we've talked. People know I don't like tomatoes.
Yes.
But I saw some stuff on Instagram and I was just like, I can do that. And it was basically noodle pasta stuff. And I just started like making pasta. I basically take cherry tomatoes, chop them up, put them hot oil in the pan. I cook them with garlic and oil and oregano and some of those other green things that sound like they're supposed to go in spaghetti sauce.
Love it.
And then I took all of that and then I put it in the little blender and I blended it all up into like a paste, but it wasn't like a sauce. Like there was definitely not enough for that. And then I cooked a bunch of noodles and then I took the sauce out of the blender and I mixed it in along with some I took an egg, kind of like was it carbonara, something like that.
Yep.
So I added the egg into there and then the Parmesan cheese, and I've done that like 3 times now and it's been like awesome. And I'm not following a recipe, I'm not doing anything. And then yesterday I did it a little bit different where I didn't blend it. And then I cut up a bunch of chicken squares and I dropped it in there and I just kind of let it simmer for a little bit longer. And then I did the same thing where I mixed it all with the noodles and the egg, and it was awesome. So.
Dude, that sounds great. That's such a, I don't know. To me, I feel like that's a pretty easy thing to put together. And dude, I mean, you're getting flavor, you're getting nourishment, you're getting carbs, you're getting your protein. Like that's a great meal. That's fantastic.
And it literally it'll take the same amount of time. I mean, it takes the amount of time you can get it all done in the amount of time the noodles take to cook.
Yeah.
So
that's the way to do it. It's that multitasking, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's always funny when somebody's like, okay, I got to boil the noodles, and they boil the noodles. And then they're like, okay, I got to make the sauce. And I'm like, let's do that together.
Yeah.
Everything comes out nice and warm. Yesterday, I was like, you know what? I'm going to make bread of some sort. So I'm going through a bunch of different breads that I'm making. I did a quick bread. So I made some biscuits and some just regular old drop biscuits. Little did I know the recipe that I used made 48 biscuits. So we got a lot of biscuits in the house right now. So what I'm doing tonight is it's cooking right now. I'm taking those ribs and I'm slow roasting them. and I'm going to take half of them, put them in the fridge for lunches. The other half, I'm going to chop up all the meat off the bones, and I'm going to make like a biscuits and pork gravy. And it's going to be so damn good.
And that's that pre-seasoned ribs from Costco, right?
Yes.
Those are so good. I don't know if they still have it, but they used to have a tri-tip that was seasoned in the same thing.
Yes, they do.
And at one time, they sold the dry rub.
Oh, really?
I bought it one time, and they haven't had it since. It's been like 4 or 5 years.
Well, I was blown away how inexpensive they were.
Yeah. Yeah, but when you could get the dry rub, and then you can just be like, oh, I've got chicken, I've got this cheap thing. I can it tasted almost as good.
Nice. See, okay, so this is the first time I've done it, so I'm looking forward to it. I almost was like, do I need to put more stuff on it? But I was like, nope, I'm going to leave it the way it is. First time, check it out. And you're saying it's good. I'm super excited. Like, they got about an hour left on them. I just wrapped them before we started the podcast. And dude, just been on a little bit of a cooking kick. I guess now that I have the kitchen, I think that I feel a little bit more comfortable with doing that stuff. But that price though, dude. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can't get over it. $28 for 2 racks of ribs. Like, it's insane. Yeah, so drop biscuits, that you did the spaghetti thing. Anything else?
Still making the rice pudding. Like, whenever I have leftover rice. I mean, like, we didn't have a kitchen for 10 days, so I didn't get to do it then, but I just finished up I made some rice the other day, and then I had about a cup and a half left, and I quick made that and ate it in the morning, and love it. It's great. It's easy.
Good. Yeah. I mean, it's awesome because I eat what nourishes me. I've never been like one to sit there and be very particular about how I eat and all this stuff. I eat what I like to eat. I cook what I like to cook, and I don't ever have to cut, and I'm happy about that. And then I walk into these meets with a lot of great food in my belly, and I'm looking forward to that this time as well. Idaho's going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. And going to see a bunch of people and lift some weights on the I guess the big stage. Is that if you want to call it?
Sure.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to take some medals home and hopefully qualify. I'm pretty sure I'll qualify for Worlds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the other good parts about what you just said is you are also not being an idiot and being like, well, I want to be this weight class. And you're like, this is where I live nicely. This is where I'm comfortable. This is like, you wouldn't even, that's the thing that I think a lot of people don't think about is they're like, well, I want to make this weight class. It's like, you're not going to be any better.
Yeah. I
mean, you're going to be a worse lifter, but even with your numbers, some of these weight classes that are lighter, they might have an easier entry total, but it doesn't mean that you're going to rank better.
Yeah. I mean, I looked at both totals for the new weight classes and the old weight class. I looked at all of them, and every one that I would sit at, I can do. So I'm just going to stay where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm going to live
at
where I'm at.
A bunch of people I'm like, I'm going to be 102. So like, there's not a 102. I'm like, I'll weigh 102. Like, so you'll be a 110. I'm like, yeah, but I'll weigh 102. Well, why don't you want to fill it out? Because I had this conversation with a couple people at the gym the other day. We're coming up on 2 years ago when I did the biggest meet I've ever done and probably I'll ever do.
Right.
I was walking around at 110, 111 for a solid 2.5, 3 months. Like, I got to that size where I lived there and I became that size.
Okay.
That was the strongest, the best I've ever moved, the fastest I ever moved, the least injuries I've ever had with moving the amount of weight that I was moving. Like, I was snatching 140 5 to 10 times a week. and I was clean and jerking 60 plus, probably close to 10 times a week.
Damn.
I could barely sleep. I could barely breathe. I thought my head was going to explode the whole time. Like, there's this trade-off that happened with being that able to perform that well in the specific sport.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I was good at. I wasn't sleeping well. I was stressed out. I was force feeding myself. I was just trying to maintain this. And the second that meet was done, like, I've never wanted to go back there, because even though I did better at that meet than I've ever done in my life, I don't think I could live that way. And I don't think I would live very long if I tried to stay that size.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you know, and we hear people talk about it all the time, but like, yeah, if you're doing that all year around, and you're single, and you're maybe in your late 20s or mid 20s or just 20s, then okay, have fun, do it. But at our age, it just don't work.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work. So, I think what you said is pretty valuable for people to hear, which is that, yeah, your lifting was great, but everything else was not.
Yeah.
And that's to the point where you have to be to I guess, be a world champion, right? You
Sure.
think?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I mean, that was the probably roughest 12 months of my marriage and my family life and all that kind of stuff. And like, I won worlds 5 months before that. And then I had some stuff to prove because I wasn't happy with how worlds went.
Right.
I wasn't complaining about the placement, but just how I performed. I wasn't happy with that. And then that next 5 months, I basically dedicated everything to that. And I got it accomplished. And I know that like, until I chose to be done, I would always want more. It didn't matter that I totaled the biggest meet of my life. If I put another 6 months into it and added 1 more kilo or 20 more kilos, I would want more.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense. I get that.
There comes a point where you just need to be happy. And
just be happy
and just like be able to walk away and be happy with what you did.
Yeah. And I think it's a great way to put it. Just accept where you're at. And, you know, I think as everybody else will figure out, and you figured out, you know, when your time is up, and then just have fun, you know, do whatever, you know, if you want to stay in the world of weightlifting, find a different avenue. Be a coach, be a gym owner, do something start a podcast. Hey, how about that? We do need more weightlifting podcasts out there. I will say that because I am out of it.
I think that the one good part that I did get to, and I think that everyone needs to get to this point, is I don't think I could have done anything more. Like, I put my 100% into it. And I don't think that there's like, that was everything I had. And I don't have any regrets about being like, oh, I wish I did this. I wish I did that. Like, that was like, I gave it everything. So
yeah. And I mean, you could tell that meet was massive, and not even that, like, you could, you know, my family is big supporters of the People's Master, and we watched it online, and like, you could just see the emotion. You could see how you approach the bar. You could see the focus. And there's something
popping out of my forehead.
Yes. Yes, that was definitely happening.
200 over 120 blood pressure.
Exactly. I almost couldn't give blood the other day. I was going to be a good Samaritan and donate blood for the blood drive. And I walk in, and I just got done running like 20 pizzas upstairs because I was delivering some pizzas. And they're like, bro, you're 160 over 100 right now. You cannot do this for another 10 minutes. I'll come back and take it. Came back and take it. I got under 100, and he was like, let's go. Let's do it. I'm like, okay, cool. Anyways, good place to stop. Cornell, great show. Got through a lot of stuff, more than what I anticipated. So Everybody out there, thank you for listening. Cornell, thank you for being here. Got an early show in. I really like these times. So other than that, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Adios.
Bye.